Welcome back to the Redbird Report alongside Tanner Hendrickson. I'm Brandon Kiley. Looking back at the month that was for the St. Louis Cardinals, they entered the month of May with a 14-17 record. They were fourth in the division. They were 4 games back of the Cubs, 3.5 games back of the Phillies in the wild card race, and there were 4 teams ahead of them in the wild card race at that point in time. And since they have gone 18-7. That is the second best record in all of Major League Baseball this month. Only the Phillies have been better. They're 6th in both runs per game, or 6th in runs per game, and 5th in runs allowed per game. You're 8-1-1 in your last 10 series overall. You have comeback wins in each of your past 5 wins overall, and you just took 2 of 3 against Baltimore after Game 1 was maybe the Cardinals' worst game that I've seen them play. Really, I guess that and the Tigers game, that final game of that series, would be the 2 worst that I've seen them play, probably in the last month. This team's on fire, T-Bone. They look like a legitimate contender. I have very few gripes about the way that they're playing right now. Everybody is pitching in some way or another. Offense looks very well-rounded. Defense, while it has shown a few signs of slippage, is still very good for the most part. And the pitching overall, at times can be frustrating, but man, they're still top 10, top 12 in ERA for both the rotation and the bullpen. Feeling pretty damn good about this right now. How are you feeling about your Redbirds at 32-24, getting to the end of the month of May?
I feel really good about them as well. Look, I'm all in on the train of I think they're a playoff team. I really do. I mean, I look at them. You mentioned their offense. Their offense is very well-rounded. They don't really have a hole in the lineup outside of Jordan Walker, but as we'll talk about later on here in the pod, he's been playing much better of late at the plate. I look at their pitching staff, though, yes, they don't have swing and miss, which I love. They've got an excellent defense behind them, right? So I think you can get away with that when you pitch to contact, long as the defense behind you is good. What was their problem in 2023? They didn't have a defense behind some of these guys like Miles Michaelis. So I think they can get away with the lack of swing and miss in the rotation. I think they probably are a playoff team when I look at them. I don't think they're a World Series contender by any means because they are missing some of the big elements you need, which is home run power and swing and miss in your rotation and in your bullpen. They're a good enough baseball team, though, to be in this thing all season long and, in my opinion, get to the playoffs. So, yes, I am all in on this team being a playoff team. I think they should already consider themselves buyers at the trade deadline. I am all in.
I think they're a really good club. I think they're limited. They don't have the ceiling of the Dodgers. They don't have the ceiling of the Yankees or even maybe the Phillies or the Mets. But they're a good club, and they're a fun club to watch. Like, you watch them on a night-in, night-out basis, and I can just, anecdotally speaking, I was with a buddy last night, and we were watching the Cardinals game together, and he's like, man, I've watched more Cardinals baseball this year in the first 2 months of the season than I had the previous, couple of years combined. It's a team that you find yourself invested in. And we talked about this off air the other day, T-Bone, of like, who's your favorite player on the team to watch? Who, if you're growing up right now, who do you think would be the favorite player for you or for your kids right at school right now? Man, there's a lot of good options. And that has not always been the case over the last few years. Yeah, you had Arenado, you had Paul Goldschmidt, and they're all-time great players, future Hall of Fame players in my opinion. But there is something about a homegrown player that's a little different. And Mason Wynn is that. Victor Scott is that. Brendan Donovan is that. Ivan Herrera is that. And so if you're a kid right now and you're watching this team, you have guys that you can latch onto in a way that you haven't been able to really in the last decade almost. There have been a couple of guys here and there that have come and gone at times. Like Harrison Bader, I think, was a fan favorite for some. But overall, you haven't had this kind of a wave of position players that you can really get behind. And I think that's, to me, one of the underlying stories of this team. It's not just that they're winning, because they're doing a really good job, but they're like tied for the final wildcard spot right now. This is not some overwhelming team that just came in and like they're projected to win 105 games or anything like that. Nobody's looking at them that way, I don't think. They're just a fun club. They're a good club, a fun club. They play baseball the way that Cardinals fans appreciate. They put the bat to the ball. They put it in play. They steal their bases. They play really high-level defense, and they pitch pretty well. Like that's just this is not a difficult club to be able to describe. They're pretty simple, but simple is effective, and it's working for them.
Yeah, and to your point on like the young guys you can attach yourself to, I don't think they've had this kind of grouping of young guys, and this is different because they weren't. I wouldn't call these guys stars, but they are at least starters at the big leagues. Probably since the Memphis Mafia, because like most of those guys were complimentary pieces. Like, sorry, Descalzo, I know I'll probably see you at the ballpark. He was a complimentary piece, right? He was a bench bat, a really
Craig
good
was the
bench
one
bat.
guy that you could maybe throw into, like, had he been fully healthy, maybe he becomes not a star, but a legit, like, middle of the order hitter for the next 5 to 10 years.
But that's the only one. Everybody else was kind of the complimentary pieces. Jay was a part of that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And Jay had a very good career as a starting center fielder for the Cardinals, but he was more of like the Victor Scott one that you look at and say, okay, this guy's really fun. They haven't had a core of guys that can come up and be like serviceable big league starters that you can probably write in pen for the next 5 years of, hey, this guy is going to be a starter somewhere in our lineup. Brendan Donovan is that guy, to your point. Wynn is that guy. And like you said, they play just a simple brand of baseball. And I think this fan base loves that, right? They don't want to watch a team that is going to just, hey, we're going to either be a home run hitting team or we're going to strike out offensively. Hey, we're going to miss a bunch of bats. No, this fan base likes, hey, what's your ERA at the end of the year? It's not about what your strikeout percentage is or maybe about what your win total is. It's what's your ERA? Are you a good pitcher based on what your ERA says? Do you hit for average? I think that is a big thing here in St. Louis.
Hell yeah.
I am more of an OPS guy myself, on base plus slugging. Here in St. Louis, it's, hey, are you hitting 280? Yeah, then you're probably a really good player, right? We talked about Mason Wynn as the potential leadoff guy for them coming into 2025. And we said, I don't know if I like him at the leadoff spot. It doesn't have the on base. And this fan base said, no, he's a leadoff hitter. What are you talking about? He hit like 270 last year. Why wouldn't he be that? This is a brand of baseball that this fan base can get behind. And I think you're actually starting to see that. The attendance went up in that Diamondback series. I think you're starting to see St. Louis is starting to buy into what the Cardinals are selling with this group.
I would also say that style of play is part of what makes, especially Mason Wynn. Like, to me, tell me if you disagree with this. I think Mason Wynn is becoming the face of the team right now.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
I think if you're a young fan, I would guess he's probably the guy that the majority, like, let me put it this way. If you're going to an elementary or middle school today, and kids, it's like Jersey Day for the Cardinals, right? The kids are all wearing their stuff. I would imagine most of the jerseys that you see are probably Mason Wynn jerseys right now. That would be my guess as to who the player is right now that is appealing to the most young Cardinals fans. I would also say, strangely, he's the player that appeals to most people that are a little over our age, T-Bone, because he is a throwback player. Defense first, hits for average, little bit of pop, little bit of stolen base opportunities on the base paths as well. Like, he is just a guy that speaks to the hearts, the minds, the emotions of every Cardinals fan, almost regardless of age, gender, or the Cardinals baseball that you remember from your youth. So I think he is that guy, and that's what I wanted to get to with this, is that style of play for individual players. I also think is what's different from that Memphis Mafia. Like, there is a brand of baseball that Mason Wynn plays, that Victor Scott plays, that even when Walker's right, he plays. That's a little different from a lot of the guys that you saw in that Memphis Mafia era. So it's just a lot of fun, man. And I know people might be getting sick. I don't know if this is the case or not, but like, I feel like there's been a lot of coverage about the Cardinals. It's like, oh my God, this team's fun. And so I think there will come a point in time where people are like, yeah, let's discuss though what's good, what's bad about them. But for right now, we're only a couple months in and it is still very fresh. And hot damn, man, the team's fun. Like, it's hard to avoid that being the biggest talking point coming off of a month where I think they kind of shocked everybody. I don't know how anybody could have seen this coming from them. And it's not a small sample size anymore. They're top 10 or 12 in every metric. Like, this is just, it's a good club.
And to your point on the first month, like, they finished below 500 in April.
Yep.
They were 11-16. Like, we wrote them off for dead. Well, not us potentially, but there were people that wrote them off for dead. It was, hey, I saw what you looked like against Boston on the road. I saw what you looked like against the Mets on the road where you got swept. Sure, maybe they're fun, but they're not going to win anything. And then we kept saying, and I kept saying it here on the Redbird Report, fix the bullpen, and I think you're going to have something here. Because it was really just the one or two spots in the bullpen, in Fernandez and Roycroft. And it has turned on its head now. They are a team, to your point. They are fun. I think they have flaws, but I don't think they're, like, significant flaws, right? It's not like you're watching a bullpen that is still bad. They don't have swing and miss stuff. That's a little flaw that you can tweak. This isn't where you're like the Chicago Cubs from last year, where it's like they threw everybody out, they threw everything at the wall, and they still couldn't fix their bullpen. And it was the thing that ended up sinking the Chicago Cubs season. So yes, they are a fun baseball team. Are they flawed? Yeah, they've got some things they need to improve, and it'll be a big question of will they be willing to address those when we get to the trade deadline in a transition season. But I believe that they are a team that, fun, whatever you want to call it, they are a good enough baseball team to get themselves to October.
So you mentioned, though, before the show today, they're not just a good team. They could be the next Rangers. They could be the next Diamondbacks. Or maybe more specifically, why couldn't they be one of those two teams, right? And those two teams are, generally speaking, outliers based on what we typically see in the World Series. Normally what you see is the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Phillies, the Astros, right? Like these teams that are just overwhelmingly great in every possible way. The super team, right? That's what this era really has become. Started with Chicago in 2016. They built that super team with a bunch of homegrown talent and then added in the pitching afterwards. And then since then, especially in the National League, it's been Cubs, Dodgers, Nationals as a one-off, but they had that unbelievable pitching staff in Juan Soto. And then Dodgers, Braves, Phillies, Diamondbacks as an outlier, Dodgers again. So it's not the easiest way to go about it, but T-Bone, if this year becomes a bit of an outlier season, and it could be, Dodgers are broken pitching-wise. Phillies might not be quite as good as some people expected, although I still think they're pretty freaking awesome. The Mets, who knows if the pitching will continue at this rate? I think it's pretty darn good, but maybe not. If somebody slides through, why do you think the Cardinals could be that team?
I think the reason they can't be that team is I looked last night. We're recording this on Thursday, and I was curious because, again, we've been talking about they don't have swing and miss. They're bottom 10 in strikeout percentage with their entire staff. So I was curious, okay, who are the teams that have done that? There's been 8 teams that have done it since 2016. Only 2 teams have advanced past the divisional series, and those 2 teams were the Rangers and the Diamondbacks. And the Rangers, though they finished 21st in strikeout percentage, and this is where I go to what I was saying about, do they have some flaws? Yes, they need to address them at the deadline. If you add one more arm, I think that's got a little bit above average swing and miss stuff, like a number 3 for this rotation. The Rangers were able to jump up their pitching staff by acquiring Jordan Montgomery and adding a couple pieces to their bullpen, up to 14th in the second half of the season in strikeout percentage. They were very good defensively, and they also had the third best offense in baseball. I don't know that the Cardinals can get to that level, top 5 offense in baseball. You got a top 10 offense, though, in baseball, and they've been floating around that all season long. You add a little bit of reinforcements to this pitching staff, I think you give yourself a chance come October with this team. I don't know if they'll be able to do it, but I look at the Texas Rangers lineup, and they had 2 guys that finished top 3 in MVP voting, Corey Seager and Marcus Semien.
Big deal.
But, I say that, and I'm not trying to take away from Marcus Semien's season. He finished at 26% above league average. Mason Wynn's 22% above league average right now. Now, where it's going to be difficult, and this is where I have a tough time figuring out, can you really do what the Rangers did? They slugged. I mean, you look at their lineup, and you've got 478, 623, 467, 438 a slugging percentage for some of their guys.
The home run numbers, 33, 29, 39, 19, 18, 17, 14. I mean, everybody that was on the roster was hitting for power.
And the Cardinals don't do that. They don't have that kind of power. But if I told you, I'm looking at who their regulars were, quote-unquote, on Baseball Reference, which is basically who started in most games at this position. Of the 10 positions, catcher to DH, only one guy was below league average, and that was Travis Janikowski. Everybody else was at 100 or more OPS plus. I look at the Cardinals, and I say, I think you're going to be somewhere in that range. Now, where the ceiling is for those guys, I'm not sure. But Contreras right now, 7% below league average. I don't think he's going to finish there. I think he's going to be above league average. You look at Brendan Donovan, 144 OPS plus. He's going to be above league average. Probably not at that mark, but he's going to be above league average. You look at Arenado. He'll probably be about league average. Victor Scott probably will be about league average. They should have enough guys that you look at in this lineup and say, hey, they don't have a superstar. They don't have the Corey Seager, but can they be death by 1,000 cuts, really make you work in these games, get your starter out, and see if they can beat your bullpen? I think they might be able to.
Maybe. Who's their Evaldi? Because that was a big piece of what the Rangers were able to do in the postseason. They just had a dude that went out there and was a bully. He went into the postseason, and he's done it before. We've now seen this, 2 or 3 times with Evaldi, where he gets in, and it's just, that dude's different. And I don't know that they have that guy right now. Maybe it's Libby. Maybe Libby is just somebody that's been untested and he can go out there and he could be the guy that leads the rotation for you. Maybe it is Sonny Gray. Maybe it's Nathan Eovaldi. Like maybe they just make a trade at the deadline and go acquire that guy that becomes maybe not your number one. Like maybe Sonny Gray takes a game one of a series, but somebody like an Eovaldi ends up coming in and becoming that player for you. I could see something like that, but I think that's really the thing. Like as much as we talk about the offense, that's the thing to me that really stands out that's lacking. And then offensively, you talk about this all the time, T-Bone. Like I think that slug is a really big deal in the playoffs in particular. If you don't have the ability to put the ball in the seats, it's hard to score in the postseason, man. It's really hard to score. And stringing together hits the way that the Cardinals have, where they have, I think it's 24 games so far this year with 10 or more hits, dude, that's just not happening in the playoffs.
No.
You're not going to see, and the Cardinals are doing this against really high-level pitching, so maybe I'm just discounting a team that can do that. They're the outlier. They are the team that is hitting for average in a way that almost nobody else does. It's possible, I suppose, but it's a really hard formula to follow all the way to the postseason. So it almost requires one of the following things to happen. One, you just hit for more power. Like you unlock that power in Jordan Walker, or Nolan Gorman becomes more of a regular, or Alec Burleson, who's batting like 375 this month, is now inserted as like the everyday DH with Ivan Herrera behind the plate suddenly, and now you have more power into your lineup. All of these things are possible, I suppose. You don't have a Corey Seager. That's a big deal. That guy was unbelievable in 2023, I think it was. And I don't think you have that number two, number one, whatever starter. So if you're asking me the question, why can't the Cardinals be the 2023 Rangers? It's for those specific reasons. Still possible, but that would be my retort.
Yeah, and like I think those are all fair because like what I'm having a tough time deciding, the two things that if you've followed me in my career here in St. Louis in the media covering baseball, slug baby slug and swing and miss stuff, and the Cardinals don't do either of those. Their slugging is up, but it's not in your typical way you would view slugging, which is the home run ball, as you mentioned. But like I say that, and you just mentioned like they have gone up against good pitchers and they have beaten them. Mm-hmm. So maybe their formula does work, and I don't know how to adjust for it. Like I when I think of the Cardinals, like I looked at their lineup and I go, Donovan's still not a 3-hole hitter to me, right? Because when I think of a 3-hole hitter, I think of the Corey Seager, 30 home runs, 100 RBIs.
The Cardinals are really trying to turn back time with this club.
Yes.
Like that's what they're doing. They're saying, hey, everybody else is playing baseball of 2025. We're playing baseball of 2013, and it might work. Like so far it has, but we'll see if that does work when we get to July, August, September, and eventually into October.
And that is what's making it tough for me to figure out, okay, I like this team. I think this team is a playoff team. What is their ceiling, though, when we have that conversation? Because the lack of slug, the lack of swing and miss, I don't know how to read it. I think they can kind of fix the pitching thing. Like, I think if I said, hey, they run out in the postseason, Sonny Gray, Matthew Liberatore, insert third arm they acquire, maybe it's a Nathan Eovaldi type. Maybe it's him, maybe it is somebody that's
sure
Nathan Eovaldi-esque. You add one more, like, bullpen arm just to help you out because you're going to need, when in doubt, acquire a bullpen arm at the trade deadline. Like, I think your pitching would be fine. My question then would be, like, can Contreras just go on a run? Right? Like, I think Contreras is the one guy we keep asking the question of, hey, who's the guy that maybe could provide a little bit more? To me, it's Contreras. I thought he was a 35-homer guy coming into the year. And offensively, he started to pick it back up. He's gone cold once again for the last 20 games where he's hitting like 210. He's the guy that I'm circling going, okay, maybe he's the one. Maybe he's not going to get to 3,100 because he's had a slow start this year. Is he the guy, though, like can get hot, be that bat for you in October, and then you pair him with like an Ivan Herrera, and boom, now you're cooking with something. It only takes two legitimate bats to potentially carry you in the playoffs, as the Diamondbacks proved in 2023.
And that's what I think is interesting. Once you get in, Randy Arozarena can carry you. Adolis Garcia can carry you. We've seen this before. If you have the Cardinal blood in you, David Freese carried the Cardinals for a playoff run, right? Like he was a huge component of them winning the World Series. So the Cardinals have guys that are capable of that. I mean, Jordan Walker can get hot for a month. Ivan Herrera clearly can get hot for a month. Brendan Donovan has been hot for 2 months at this point. Lars Nootbaar has gone on heaters before. We've seen a lot of the guys in this lineup. Hell, Mason Wynn this month is batting like 295 with real power as well. So they've got guys that are capable of getting hot. Some guys just are the metronomes. They're just going to consistently be a 250 hitter that gets on base 32% of the time. They don't have a lot of peaks. They don't have a lot of valleys. That's just who they are as hitters. The Cardinals have a lot of guys that can get hot for a sustained stretch of time, and that is something that is a little bit exciting about the potential for them down the stretch. I do want to talk about one of those players, and that's Jordan Walker, who this is still a really small sample size. Everything we're working with so far this year is small sample size theater. In his past 11 games, again, guys, I understand, small sample. It's better, but it's different. And I find it to be really interesting because it's showing signs of he's working on stuff behind the scenes, it's being implemented into games, and it's producing. In his last 11 games, 11 for 33, that's a 335 average, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, 10 RBIs in 11 games. That's pretty damn good, okay? 14 strikeouts, 1 walk. That's not so good. The strikeout numbers are not just there. They're actually increasing. He's striking out more often. That's like a, 35-40% strikeout rate that he's had in his last 11 games? That's horrific. That's Nolan Gorman levels of bad. But when he connects, damn does that ball go far, dude. Like he's either hitting the ball 11 hits or striking out 14 of them in 25 of his 33 at-bats in the last 11 games. So it's a really weird profile, and it's a very volatile profile. If he continues striking out at that rate, it's going to be really hard to hit 330 for any stretch of time. But he's actually been unlucky. And that's the part that I find so fascinating about Jordan Walker's recent stretch of games. So T-Bone, in his last 11 games, if you look at some of the under-the-hood numbers, right? I know some people get super annoyed by this, but they're worthwhile in my opinion. His expected batting average is 370. His expected slug, 737. And it goes beyond that. He's hitting the ball on average 98 miles per hour. Now, worth noting for anybody that doesn't look at these numbers, and I don't blame you, 95 miles per hour is considered a quote-unquote hard hit ball. The average ball hit by Jordan Walker in the last 2 weeks is 98 miles per hour. So his average ball is hit harder than your typical hard hit ball in Major League Baseball. 40% whiff rate. When he swings, 40% of the time he just misses the ball completely. That's really, really bad. It was 33% prior to this hot streak where he's been better again. So all of that is to say there are real changes in here. I don't want to get into attack degrees and the ideal attack angle that is now on Baseball Savant, but basically just know this. He's changed his swing plane, and now he is getting a little bit more lift on the ball. It's really about where he gets to the ball, so the timing is there better than it was previously, is effectively what you're getting here. T-Bone, what do you make of all of this? It's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of context, it's a very small sample size, but it's better and also worse at the same time, and I don't really know what to do with any of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the way to look at it, because of everything you said there, is one, you say, okay, this is encouraging, right? It is finally nice to see him start to get off the schneid and start to put the ball in play. And like you said, when he makes contact, big man hit ball far is what he is. And hit ball hard. The thing that I just don't know what to make of is, you read everything there of, the whiff rate and the strikeouts that are there. I mean, he basically has become the approach of Alec Burleson, but missing the ball a lot more. Because Burley's a free swinger, man. Burley goes up there, he's going to swing.
He's become what I thought Nolan Gorman was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, and as we've seen with Gorman's profile, it may not work. It may not work at the big leagues.
But it might.
It might, but right now
there are guys with this profile it does work for.
And thinking of Torkelson?
Sure. Or thinking about, Jock Peterson. Now, Peterson's a lefty, and so there's something to that as well. Walker's going to have a lot more matchups where he doesn't have the platoon advantage. But, yeah, Torkelson's a great comparison for this. This is basically what he became. He still strikes out a lot, but dude, when he hits the ball, it goes a really long way, and he hits the crap out of it. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe Walker doesn't become the average hitter that we thought. Maybe the on-base percentage isn't all that high. He doesn't walk the way that we thought maybe he potentially could, and he strikes out more than you expected him to, but the intent every time he swings is going to be just I'm hitting this ball as hard and as far as I possibly can. Again, it's not the profile I anticipated with him, but maybe that's where he's at right now, and that's the best version of him at this major league level.
Yeah, if this is what can get him towards kind of stabilizing, which I've said is the goal for him this year, is to...
I have another comparison that I want to get to here in a minute.
Okay, if this is what gets him to stabilize, in terms of, like, can you just be, like, 10% or at league average, 10% below or at league average, I think that's a win this year, and then you hope you can build upon his batted ball profile. But the reason I keep saying, like, hey, I don't want to discount what he's doing right now, because what he's doing right now, hitting the ball hard, getting a little unlucky, it is encouraging. But it does feel like something to me that I'm still saying, like, hey, this is great. I would stick with the plan, which is basically play him twice out of every 3 games. You give him a day off to work with Brant Brown, and you just see what it looks like in about 2-3 weeks. Because I don't think this is a sustainable batted ball profile, but maybe he is the one exception to this, right? Like, I didn't think Miles Michaels could bounce back and have a bounce back year on the pitching side, and he's been able to do that even though he doesn't miss bats.
I'm going to read you some whiff rates. This is from a player the first 4 years of his major league career, okay?
Okay.
42%, 35%, 36%, 37%. Those are bad, right? We would agree on that?
That's not very good.
I'm going to read you strikeout rates. These are the same player early on in his career. 44%, 31%, 31%, 32%. Those are bad, right? We could agree on that?
Yeah.
How do you think that player performed in those seasons? Good, bad, indifferent, somewhere in between? How do you feel like that guy probably did offensively?
Well, my gut would say bad, knowing this is a BK game. There must be one. My guess is it's like 2 years were good, 2 years were bad.
Great. It was Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge swings and misses all the time. Even to this day, swings and misses all the time. Now, Aaron Judge also has a great eye. He walks all the time. And part of that is because people are bleeping terrified of him because he hits the ball so hard and it goes so far. And he also has a swing path that allows for the ball not just to get hit hard, but to get hit in the air, pull side, it's going over the fences, goodbye, right? Like, his launch angle for his entire career is something that Jordan Walker can only dream of right now in his career. But all of those things, the issues that we're talking about with Walker, and really, Judge is the only guy body-wise that resembles what Jordan Walker is in Major League Baseball. Like, there just aren't many dudes that look like him size-wise that perform. He's 6'6", he's like 260 pounds, he's a Greek god. He's chiseled. Like, this is not the type of athlete that you would typically anticipate playing baseball. He is a defensive end in the NFL. So that would be my retort to this can't work. Well, it can, but you have to be an outlier. And really, that's what we're discussing here is, could Jordan Walker be an outlier? Is that something he's capable of? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, but I'm just presenting like that is a profile that is out there. It is a similar type of hitter in terms of size-wise.
Yeah.
And he went on to be, like the best right-handed hitter of the last decade.
Yeah,
I don't think that's in Jordan Walker's future, to be clear. I don't think he's going to be Aaron Judge. Let's just clear that up.
I think the walk rate is the one thing that does help Judge. But, like, I even if that wasn't a part of Walker's game, like, you read off those numbers, and yes, maybe it could potentially be in the range of outcomes, and I agree. He's probably not going to be Aaron Judge. We also, like, if you're telling me that, like, this is probably the outlier case, I'm not going to bet on an outlier. And I want to be clear, that doesn't mean I'm giving up on, like, Jordan Walker right now. But, like, that profile's probably not going to work for him, right? I wouldn't bet. If you told me today, hey, this is what he becomes, it's that whiff rate, it's that strikeout percentage, my gut would tell me, okay, Walker's probably not that guy, and it goes back to the batter's eye. And it's not just about the walks, right? I mean, you can just even watch these at-bats still from Jordan Walker during this stretch. He clearly still has trouble picking up the slider. And there are times when he takes a fastball low and away, and my gut, I don't know this for sure, my gut tells me he thought that was a slider, or he's at least convinced himself to be more cautious on the outside, and then he falls behind, and then boom, he's suddenly chasing in counts. And I feel like that's what you're really seeing from him here of late. I don't like the idea of, like, that would become his profile, right? Maybe you can make it work for this year, but to me, you would have to start to adjust and start to show a better batter's eye for me to fully be on board of, oh, yeah, I'm signing up for the 40% whiff rate, and I think you're going to be able to make this work and become a good, everyday big leaguer.
It's just an interesting adjustment because there's clearly something here. He's always, all season long, he's been swinging it really, really fast, right? Like, you look at any of those numbers, like, oh, my God, that guy, he swings it really fast. Unfortunately, he's swinging too fast to the point where he's missing the ball. He's not making contact. And before you got to this 11-game stretch, the production was abysmal. And you look at it like he's basically doubled his expected batting average and more than doubled his expected slugging percentage And he's doing so while increasing the swing and miss rate, while increasing the strikeout rate. It's a hard thing to square. And trying to figure out what exactly does this mean. It means I want to see more of it. I want to see more time with him in the outfield. I want to see more time with him getting opportunities at the plate, because I think adjustments are truly being made and they're carrying over finally into the game. And if that is something that continues, well, maybe you do unlock something here. And maybe eventually, as he gets more comfortable and as he starts to recognize the spin better, and you start to see better pitch selection, that could become better swing decisions. And now you've got a guy that has fixed or adjusted, however you want to claim it, his swing, that is also recognizing pitches better and is making better swing decisions. And boom, when he's connecting, it's going really far. Well, now you really got something. Now you don't have Aaron Judge, but could you have like 60% of Aaron Judge, which is like a 30% above league average hitter? Like, yeah, that's what I think everybody is hoping for from Walker at this point. I find it really interesting. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun to watch. And even if it doesn't work, if this thing goes right back cratering down to earth in the next couple of weeks, I like that we're seeing them carry this stuff over. I like that we're seeing Walker carry stuff over into the game, make obvious adjustments with his swing, and hopefully that means whatever the next adjustment is that needs to be made, he's also willing to do that. We see it get carried into the game as well. Because pitchers are going to adjust to this. They'll continue to do so, and he'll have to adjust back to them. All right, next thing that I wanted to get to today, T-Bone. You want to keep up with our, like, hey, Jordan Walker is the next Aaron Judge. Cardinals are legitimate contender. Why can't they be the Texas Rangers? Hey, why aren't they the most well-rounded team in the National League right now? Because I was looking at this earlier today. Every team other than the Cardinals that you would consider to be a legitimate playoff team. So I'm talking about the Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers, Mets, Padres, Cardinals. Those are the teams that are in right now. And then you add in the Giants, Brewers, Reds, Diamondbacks, Braves. Went through all of those teams to find out what are they doing this year. Offense, I just judge by OPS. Just a simple metric. Don't have to get like crazy into the weeds. Starting pitching ERA. Very bare bones basic, right? Bullpen ERA. Outs above average. So basically, how are you offensively? How do you pitch? Bullpen / starting pitching. And how are you defensively? And where do you rank in all of Major League Baseball? Here are the Cardinals' ranks in those areas. 7th in OPS, 10th in starting pitching ERA, 13th in bullpen ERA, 1st in outs above average. They are at least 13th or better in every statistical category. And that's the case even if you go like underneath the hood. They are basically a top 15 team in every category. Meanwhile, the Phillies are bad in their bullpen and they're really bad defensively. Not surprising. Sounds like the Phillies. The Cubs are pretty bad when it comes to their starting pitching this year. The Dodgers are horrible when it comes to their starting pitching this year. The Mets are really bad at defense, as are the Padres, but the Padres also below average when it comes to their starters. The Giants don't hit it, and they don't play defense. That's pretty tough when your position players are both bad offensively and defensively, and yet here they are. The Brewers are really bad offensively, and their bullpen's not good this year. The Reds have a bad bullpen. The Diamondbacks are bad at just about everything other than defense, and the Braves are basically middle of the pack at everything other than defense, where they're pretty good. So, T-Bone, I'll ask you the question. Are the Cardinals the most well-rounded contender in the National League right now?
I think right now, yes. I think right now they are. I'm glad you said right now, because if you were just going to say, are they the most rounded team in the National League, my answer was going to be no. Because I do think there's probably going to be some regression, probably with the starting pitching. You know, you keep talking about, one, what happens if your defense kind of lets up a little bit, which I still think they're going to be probably a top 5 defense in baseball this year at a minimum. But they walk. Fetty and Palante are sometimes painful to watch with the amount of walks that they give up, and they keep working around it, which, hey, kudos to them. They're doing their job. The bullpen, I think, will be the one that gets better of that group, because now that they've kind of cleaned house a little bit with Fernandez and Roycroft kind of coming up and down, the bullpen just looks better. That's the one that I think will get better, but I do think they will regress a little bit when it comes to their starting pitching. But for the right now, yeah, they're the most rounded team. I mean, I think the Dodgers are the team that will start to get there, but man, their starting pitching, the reason their starting pitching ERA is where it's at, they're so banged up with their rotation. Same with the Cubbies. The Cubbies are without Imanaga and without Justin Steele. That'll send your ERA plummeting. So for the right now, Yeah, I agree. I think the Cardinals are the best rounded team. They're not dealing with injuries. There's nothing to really look at outside of maybe one or two starters will regress a little bit with their starting pitching staff. But the bullpen, I think, is only getting better. Defensively, I don't think that will typically change. I think by the time you get through month and a half, 2 months of the baseball season, you know what you are defensively unless an injury pops up that can change it. But I think they are the team right now that is most rounded in the National League, and I think the Cubs and Dodgers will start to get there.
I think the Cubs might end up being this, and I find it kind of ironic that the two most well-rounded teams might be the two teams in the division.
Yeah, the almighty NL Central.
That nobody wanted to believe in, and everybody said all offseason, us included. We are not immune to this discussion. We said, this team's crap. Somebody's got to win it, so sure, go ahead. Like, we both, I think, picked the Cubs going into the season, but this was not a division that anybody really believed in any meaningful way. And yet here we are, and listen, like, these teams are not the Dodgers, they're not the Mets, they're not the Phillies, in my opinion. But they're a hell of a lot better than I expected them to be. And I do think they might be the two most well-rounded teams, which is interesting considering their payroll is so much lower than these other teams. You think about it, if you're paying, $250 million, you'd think you'd be a pretty well-rounded team, and yet the Dodgers are like pitching you and me tomorrow night in a bullpen game. I've never heard of half of the pitchers that they're throwing right now. Now they're finding ways to make it work. You look at the standings, you're like, God, they're what? They're 34-22, and they're pitching the corpse of, like, I don't know, a guy that pitched 100 years ago to be their starter. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It doesn't compute, and yet that's just how great their offense is. I think the Cardinals have a chance to finish the season as the most well-rounded team. That doesn't mean best, because a lot of the time it is strength on strength. Hey, we've got the number one offense in baseball. You've got the number one pitching staff in baseball. Let's see what this looks like in the World Series kind of situation. The Cardinals might not be the best at anything other than defense this year. I would bet against it. They could be the best defense, but I don't see any scenario where they're top five pitching-wise, and if Walker gets going, maybe they could find a way to get to top five offensively, but that's probably the thing that would have to happen for them to be there.
Him and Contreras, yeah.
Yeah. These other teams all have something that I can point to and immediately be like, that's top five. Or at least has the potential to be top five, and defense probably has the least effect of any of these individual numbers to be that. So I think the Cardinals are right now the most well-rounded team, as you see based on those numbers. And I think they could finish the year that way, and here's why. If Mo wants to add, and he's made comments recently where he suggests, like, hey, this is a team that I think might be worth building or worth continuing to add to, and it's not like our intention to break this thing up. If they're playing well, we'll go ahead and do that. Well, then there's pretty obvious, as you mentioned earlier, places where you can improve. And the rotation would be one of those places. And I think there's going to be a decent amount of pitchers that are actually available this year at the deadline. It might be a unique deadline in that regard.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think when you look at them, in the way Mo has talked, it sounds like he's going to be willing to give them reinforcements when we get to the trade deadline, and that should help really balance them out. What I will wonder about is, can you make something elite at the deadline? And what I mean by that is, we agree the bullpen feels better. Could that be the spot that they
Probably.
add to?
I think you could make that an elite unit. I think that is the other unit that you could maybe convince me has the potential to be top five.
Because I think they're missing probably, and I don't know if you agree with this, one power right-handed arm.
Eighth inning arm.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. I like Leahy a lot. I think he's been really good. Maton's been really good for you. If those guys are your sixth and seventh inning arms instead of the eighth inning arm.
Yeah. And you can mix and match those two with like Mats and JoJo.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I think like if you added one power right-handed arm to this, and I don't even know if it has to be power. Like if you got like, I can just tell you now, I said this in the office before we came for Ario today, Kittredge will be on my watch list again. Like if you brought him in and he pitches like he did last year, boom, you've got your arm, you've got a bullpen that runs about 6 guys deep. And now, when you get to the playoffs, you've got Gray, who in theory could give you 5 just shutdown innings. Now you can really go to your bullpen. Same with Matthew Liberatore. Who knows what you do with that number 3 starter? I think they have the potential to maybe build a bullpen that could get to that spot. But if you don't do that, and this is where if there is any question that I have about the Cardinals, it's not anything that I'm seeing on the field. I do think there will be some regressions, but I think kind of what their numbers show, they are a good team, not a great team, and it's in just about every asset. Yeah. My question for the Cardinals is, how much is the front office willing to invest in you, right? Are they going to add? But also, not just add, but add. It doesn't have to be like a big sexy piece. It doesn't have to be, he's been terrible, but he's been rumored the last couple of years. It doesn't have to be the Sandy Alcantara, right? It doesn't need to be that. But is it going to be a piece that you bring in here and I can look at it and go, yeah, I think that's going to help you. That guy's going to add swing and miss to your bullpen, or that guy's going to add swing and miss and can start game 3 for you in the playoffs. It can't be another, and to their credit, I don't think they've had this in a while, but it can't be we went out and we got a John Lester or a Jay Happ or Tyler Anderson from the Angels or Andrew Heaney from the Pirates, guys that don't strike guys out.
Honestly, get Eric Fetty plus.
Yeah.
Eric Fetty with slightly better swing and miss stuff. If you can do that, it's the Jordan Montgomery deal, basically. Like the first time, right? When you acquired Jordan Montgomery, can you go make that kind of a deal again this year at the deadline? That's probably what they should be looking at. All right, let's finish out the show. Cardinals have had a great month of May. They finished it out with a 3-game set on the road at Texas. They have a huge off day today. They are not going to have many of these in the month of May or June. I think it's only 2. 2 days off in the month of June, one coming up on Monday, and then one more the rest of the month for the Cardinals. So enjoy these while you have them. There ain't many of them. The next 6 games before we talk next, right? So 3 at Texas, then you come back home. You've got a homestand starting off against Kansas City. These are 2 struggling teams, man. You have made it through a pretty hefty portion of the contenders that are on your schedule. You just did good work against Baltimore on the road against a struggling team. Texas has lost 9 of their last 12 games. Their offense has been horrible this year, just so bad. I mean, these are some of their recent games during this losing streak, for what it's worth. 2, 3, 1, 0, 2, 2, 0. Those are runs scored by the Rangers.
Woof.
Their offense is horrible, man. So your pitching should be pretty good in this series against Texas. This will be a test about your lineup. They don't have excellent pitching, but it's pretty good. So this is another series where you will be tested, and you're probably going to be playing some tight games. Then you take on Kansas City. We've seen them once. We'll see them again here pretty soon. They have not played well since they played against the Cardinals, and really including that series. They've lost 11 of their last 17. This weekend, the Royals have the Tigers, which is not an easy task, as we saw recently for the Cardinals. They might be losers of like 14 of their last 20, 13 of their last 20, something like that, and they'll be battered and bruised coming in here to St. Louis. That will also be a test about your lineup. You'll be going up against some pretty good pitching in that series. What are you looking for in the next week prior to us recording the next edition of the Redbird Report, T-Bone?
Mine will be the offense, and I will hone in on 2 guys specifically. One, Jordan Walker, who we've talked about. How much of this is real? Will this sustain? Because these are some decent arms that you're going against. Their stuff isn't like Jacob deGrom's supposed to pitch on Sunday for the Rangers. He's still good. He's not deGrom of old. So, this is a guy that I'm curious, if they start Jordan Walker against him, what does it look like? Same with, the Royals. Lugo's really the only arm in that series that's scheduled right now that you fear. Otherwise, it's Cameron and Lorenz. Lorenz. I want to see if Jordan Walker can continue this. And then Contreras is the other one for me. Contreras is the guy that I thought was going to be the catalyst to carry this offense, and he hasn't done it really all year. And he's back to scuffling again over his last 20 games. Can he get them going? Can he find a way to start to turn the tide? Because we talked about the profile for Jordan Walker, swings the bat hard, misses most of the time. That's Contreras this year. He swings the bat very hard, but he's not making much contact. He's whiffing a lot as well. So those are the 2 guys that I would hone in on. I don't know if you feel this way, and maybe this is because I'm all in on this team. Again, not as a World Series contender, but as a playoff team.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I didn't have high expectations for him when we went into the season. To me, these 2 series are pass-fail tests. Because Texas, you should kick them while they're down, right? Your pitching, which is probably the one thing that we think could regress, should be able to hold them in check. Same with the Kansas City Royals. You should be able to hold their offense in check, as we just saw it not that long ago. It's not that impressive, and they're struggling as well. So kick them while they're down. So for me, maybe this is too strong. Maybe this is too hot of a take. I think these 2 series, it's pass or fail. To me, they should go 4-2 in these 6 games.
Yeah, that feels about right. I mean, baseball happens. So, sometimes weird stuff takes place. I mean, that first game against Baltimore, right? That happened. You lost 2 out of 3 against Detroit. I didn't think you played poorly. You lost a game that you probably should have won, and then you played really bad in one game. A Wednesday, basically getaway type of a game, and you didn't show up. And it was one of the very few situations this season where you didn't show up. If they end up going like 3-3 with one game that flips on a weird play or something, I won't say like they're a failure or anything, but I would say it's disappointing.
Yeah.
It's disappointing if you don't go 4-2 in this next 6-game stretch, because after that you got the Dodgers looming. That's not an easy test, as we certainly know. This is the portion of your schedule that you should be able to take advantage of, man. June has always been where you'd point to, because Milwaukee is not what people expected. You've got them. You've got the White Sox, the Reds. You've got Pittsburgh coming up at the end of this month heading into July. This is where you can make your run. They already had a nice stretch of games where they were able to get back into this thing. This is where, like, what the Cubs just did, they just racked up all of these wins going up against the lowly teams on their schedule. This is where you have that chance, and you have 4 games coming up against Chicago, where you're head-to-head, you win 3 out of 4 there, and now you put yourself in a really prime position to force Mo into some difficult decisions at the deadline. So, yeah, 4 out of 6, I think, should be the expectation. You've got Libby twice in this 6-game stretch, which is nice if you're the Cardinals. I think you have, at worst, even pitching matchups. At best, maybe a slight advantage.
Yeah.
And you look at it offensively, you're just flat out better than these 2 teams. Defensively, better than these 2 teams. So you should be the better team, and it's just about going out there and executing. We will talk to you guys again next week here on the Redbird Report. Apologies for the video situation. Zayn, our video guy, was a little under the weather today, so if you're watching on YouTube, apologies for the gray background, but we will hope to be back in the other studio next week, certainly breaking everything down. We're hoping to get Rob Serfolio on the show at some point in the next few weeks as well, Cardinals Assistant General Manager. For Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. We'll talk to you guys next week on the Redbird Report here on 101 ESPN.